All right, so you've done all your major scales, and you've done all your minor scales in the form of the Dorian mode. So now, one really powerful way to understand the difference between modes is to take a tune and play it in both modes. So the difference between the major and the Dorian. In order to understand that, you can take a tune and play it in both the major and then in the Dorian. And you've probably already gotten a sense of how to do that. Just by filling these out, you could figure out how to switch one from the other. But since this is a very worksheet-based endeavor here, I've worked out a worksheet that you can get started with that should make the process clear in your mind. Anyway, so this is lesson 10, changing modes, and we'll do it with the tune that we had been using before for the transposition one, the polka, Won't Come Home Till Morning. So let's start. I think we'd done that one originally in C major, so we'll start here with C major. So on this worksheet here, lesson 10, I need to fix that eventually, but this is lesson 10, change of mode. So the tonic is C, and we're going to start by writing C in here, and the mode that we want to start with is major, so we'll write major in there, and we want to switch it to minor, in this case specifically the Dorian mode, so I'll write Dorian there. And so I'm going to write the scale degrees and the pitches of these two, and you can just copy it from your scale sheets. So I'm just going to copy this in here, oops, and so what we have is the pitches C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and they're spaced whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, like major scales are. And I'll write in the scale degrees here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And now we can go to your C Dorian scale page, and here what we have, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, and of course in this case it goes whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step. So I'll write these in here, C, D, E flat, whole step, half step, and then F, G, A, B flat, so again, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, and then a whole step up to C. And I'll write in the scale degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Once again, just copying from there. And now you can see, so the difference between the major and the Dorian, the first scale degree is the same, the second scale degree is the same. For the third scale degree, in the major it's a half step higher than in the Dorian, or in the Dorian it's a half step lower than in the major. The third scale degree is E natural for major and E flat for the Dorian. The fourth scale degree is the same, the fifth scale degree is the same, the sixth scale degree is the same. The seventh scale degree, once again, it's lowered for the Dorian. So it's B natural in major, and it's B flat in the Dorian. And then, of course, back up at the tonic up an octave higher, that's the same. So now you can see which pitches are the same and which pitches are different for these two modes. And so that's what we have here, the altered pitches. So to go from major to Dorian, the third scale degree, E, becomes E flat. And the seventh scale degree, B, becomes B flat. So if we take our tune, Won't Get Home Till Morning, and write out the pitches for C major, C, D, E, F, G, C, G, A, F, F, A, B, G, G, C, C. So that's the tune. If it's, I included a second line if the tune is longer than that you're working with. And then you just go through and look for any E's. Anytime you come to an E, you make it an E flat. So we make this E an E flat. And we go through, anytime we come to a B, we make it a B flat. So we have a B here, and that becomes a B flat. But for the rest of it, it's just all the same. So C, D, E flat, F, G, C, G, A, F, F, A, B flat, G, G, C, C. So that is that's how you do that. And then now we can go over to the piano and play this. So here we are at the keyboard, and so I'm just going to play this first line of pitches, "We Won't Come Home Till Morning," in C major. And I'm going to sing that now with the pitches, which you don't have to do, but I'm going to do it so you can just see, which pitch is happening when, and hear it more clearly. So, C, D, E, F, G, C, G, A, F, F, A, B, G, G, C, C. And then we'll play these adjusted pitches here. So to do this in Dorian, you'd have I'll do it the same way. I'll sing the pitches now. C, D, E flat, F, G, C, G, A, F, F, A, B flat, G, G, C, C. So you can hear the difference. The first one in major. And the second one in Dorian. There you go. All right, so just for the sake of argument, we will now take a tune that is in the Dorian mode, or the minor mode, and change that to major. So we're going to do a slip jig called A Fig for a Kiss, which is normally played in E minor, or E Dorian. So the tonic in this case is E, and the mode we're going to start in is the Dorian mode. And we want to end up in the major mode. So we'll start here with the E Dorian information here, and we'll put the pitches and the scale degrees in here. I'm going to do the scale degrees first this time. That might be easier because it's easier to kind of focus on the relationships, the intervals between each scale degree. So we go up a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, a half step, and a whole step. So we go up from one, a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step. And then we can write in the pitches here, which are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. And then we'll go to our E major scale sheet, and we'll just copy this information. And once again, this time, you can do it whichever way is easier for you. I'm going to do it now using the scale degrees first. So in the major scale, of course, you go up a whole step, a half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So we'll start here with one, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And then write in the pitches here. So we have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. So in this case, first scale degree is the same, second scale degree is the same. The third scale degree for the Dorian, it's G. For the major, it's a G sharp, a half step higher. So the third scale degree, the pitch G from the Dorian becomes G sharp. And then fourth scale degree is the same, fifth scale degree is the same, sixth is the same. The seventh scale degree for the Dorian is D natural, and for the major, it's a half step higher, D sharp. So we'll put for the seventh scale degree, the D becomes D sharp. So now the pitches in the tune Fig for a Kiss are, let's see, how does it go? Bum, bum, bum. It starts on a G. G, B, E, B, B, A, G, F sharp, A, D, A, G, F sharp, G, B, E, B, B, A, G, B, C sharp, D, D. Let me just think for a minute. Lum bum bum ba dum ba da ba da dum ba dum ba da da dum ba dum ba da 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 dum. B, A, G, F sharp, E. So now we can just, I'm just going to copy these down here. We'll write it again. G, B, E, B, B, A, G, F sharp, A, D, A, G, F sharp, G, B, E, B, B, A, G, B, C sharp, D, B, A, G, F sharp, E. So the first time I did it, the one going from C major to C Dorian, I first looked for the pitches to adjust and then wrote the rest in. This time I'm going to write all of them in and then look for the ones to adjust and do that. Either way is fine. So the pitches to adjust, G becomes G sharp and D becomes G sharp. So here's a G, so that becomes G sharp. Another G becomes a G sharp. This D becomes a D sharp. This G becomes a G sharp. Another G sharp here. Another G sharp here. This D becomes a D sharp. Here's a G that becomes a G sharp. There. So now the adjusted pitches are G sharp, B, E, B, B, A, G sharp, F sharp, A, D sharp, A. Let's see if I did this right. Yeah, A, G sharp, F sharp, G sharp, B, E, B, B, A, G sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, B, A, G sharp, F sharp, E. So that is a Fig for a Kiss adjusted from E Dorian to E major. And now we can go to the piano and play this. All right, and here we are with a Fig for a Kiss. We're going to take it from E Dorian to E major. So first I'm going to play these pitches, the original version. I'm going to do it nice and slow. So here we go. now I'm going to do it with the adjusted pitches here. And now it'll be in E major. So here we go. There. So there it is in E major. So one thing that you can tell is that sometimes when you change the mode of a tune, it sounds kind of cool, and other times it just sounds sort of wrong. And that's up to your own personal taste to decide that. Also, like, if you're, from a creative point of view, when you do change the mode of a tune, there might be one or two notes that just don't sound right, but overall it might be kind of an interesting sound or an interesting change or variation in the tune, but there might be a note or two that really stick out as not sounding right. And so you can just feel free to adjust those. If you're doing this is really just a theoretical exercise that I'm having you do to understand the difference between these different modes. But if you were doing it in a compositional way and you wanted to play a tune in more than one mode and it just didn't sound right because of one or two notes, you would certainly, go back and adjust those notes to your taste. That would be the thing to do. And in classical music, that's done all the time. In classical music, this is an extremely common variation technique to play a tune like in the major and then in the minor. And, if a strict change from one to the other doesn't sound quite right, the composer then just adjusts the tones that don't sound right to make them fit, their sense of what sounds good. In Irish music, this kind of thing is done much less often. But when something like this does happen, also, then, any notes that kind of stick out as sounding wrong or whatever are adjusted so that then they sound right. So, anyway, I would say take this worksheet and take a couple of short, simple tunes, and they can be Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or whatever, or any really short little Irish tunes that and if they're in the major, change them. Now that you know your major and your Dorian, so you can take tunes that are in the Dorian and change them to major, or tunes that are major and change them to Dorian. And you can use like a fragment of a tune or whatever. And I would say just do a few of these to kind of get a feel for it. It's not really important that you become very fluent at this, but doing 2 or 3 will give you an interesting sense of what it means for a thing to be major and what it means for a thing to be minor, for a tune to be major or minor. So anyway, and also, this worksheet kind of makes everything very clear and step by step. But if you do a lot of this, it becomes pretty easy to just do it, in your head. And knowing your scales is really what makes that easy. So if you plan on doing a lot of this, learn these scales well, and you won't have to go through this process. You can just do it in your head.